So when I was a kid, I was a huge fan of Led Zeppelin, and I had a paper route, and I saved all the money from my paper route to buy this very expensive case-bound Led Zeppelin book of tablatures. It's got, like, not every song, but it's got tons of songs very accurately tabbed out. And not only does it have all the guitar parts, it's got the bass parts, the drum parts, it's got everything. It's pretty amazing. So, what do I do when I'm a teenager? Well, of course, the first song I'm going to look up is Stairway to Heaven. And the first page I'm going to go to is the guitar solo, because, of course, that's the part we want to play. Well, they're all awesome parts in that song, truly. But that's where I went, and I look at the opening riff. Now, at that time, I know my A minor pentatonic, and I look at this opening riff from the solo, and I see a note there that's not in A minor pentatonic. And what is that note? I think it says 8 on the A string, and I'm thinking, I wonder if that's a misprint. That means it goes that note. 8 is not in my A minor pentatonic that I had memorized when I was a kid, right? But I played it a bunch and I decided, no, that's what it is. I listened to the track. No, that's what it is. It's that note. And it sounds fantastic. And I was thinking, you know, God, these guys in those days, they were just geniuses. How did they know to play this particular note? How did they get this? Did it just come to them like a gift from some kind of mythical Norse god from one of their songs or something? Or were they just born with this kind of genius? Well, it turns out not really. It is a magic note, but actually, if we study what that note is, it's really not that complicated. So let's do that. But before we do, I'm just going to tell you about my book, where we do all kinds of work like this in this book. And you can get it on Amazon. It's called Guitar Soloing Like a Pro, and it'll show you how to find your own magic notes like we're about to do with Jimmy Page's magic note. So, if you're one of my guitar students here in Vancouver, then you know the notes, the names of the notes on these two low strings, the low E and the low A. Why? Because, well, I insist as your teacher, you have to know the notes on at least these two strings, because that's where we're going to find your bar chord shapes from, and that's where you're going to find your pentatonic scale shapes from, right? So, if you know that, and you play the lick, then you know right away that's an F note. Okay, so F, fine. That still doesn't tell me that much. So what? So what, Blue? It's an F. Who cares? A minor pentatonic is A, C, D, E, G, A, C, D, E, G, A, C. No F, right? But where does the F come from? Well, the song is in the key of A minor. And remember that pentatonic scales are actually just shortened versions of longer scales, right? So penta means 5, so it's a 5-note scale. And in fact, the full minor scale would be the notes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? The alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Well, there's the F. So that kind of answers it. At least we know F isn't that crazy. It probably wasn't the gift from a Norse god. It probably just came from a scale. But here's really the most important thing, is it's not just from a scale. We need to always know what the chords underneath are at all times, especially if we're learning someone's solo, or for writing our own solos or improvising our own solos, right? So, what are those chords? We have A minor, G, and here it is, F. Right? So, at that very moment, in that solo, starts on A minor, but by the time he finishes that first lick, is when when the other guitar parts and when the bass guitar is on an F. And that's why that note shines through so beautifully, because everybody's on an F right there, right? It's the root of the chord at the time. So back to when I was a kid there, I'm learning the next part in the solo, right? Let's see if I remember it. It's something like, oh, what's that note? Uh-oh, there's another one that's not in A minor pentatonic, right? So the way I always teach these A minor pentatonic shapes is, well, we know this is our easy shape here from the 5th fret, 5, 8, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 8, 5, 8. And then I call this extra shape up here the extension shape at the top. Right? But that's not the way the solo goes. The solo goes there. Well, what's that note? Again, if you're one of my students, then not only do you know the notes on these two strings, you could take a moment, work backwards through your octave shapes and figure out, it's the same note. It's also an F, right? Now you can see how valuable it is to just know instantly where your F notes are, right? Everywhere on the fretboard. That's so handy. One day. We don't all have to be there today, but one day, right? Now we know the 2 licks. That's the first F there. That was, it's right there, it's inside, right? Fantastic. So now, mystery solved. But here's what I think is the most important thing is, well, now we understand maybe how Jimmy Page wrote that little bit, but we can also learn how to use this type of thing, this type of magic note in our own solos. Whenever we improvise or write a solo, from now on, let's all agree that we're always gonna know what all the chords are underneath in the song, right? It's not enough just to say, oh, this song is in the key of A minor, so blah, 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 A minor pentatonic. Now, there are a lot of great solos that, in fact, just stay in the minor pentatonic, and they're great solos. So, not to say that that's not good, but if we want to take our playing to another level, we want at least to be able to have this trick in our pocket, this thing that we can do to be able to find our own magic notes. So how do we find our own magic notes? Well, we got to know the chords underneath, and the particularly magic ones are the ones where there's a note that's not in the pentatonic, right? Which is exactly what's happening in Stairway. It's an F note, and F is not in A minor pentatonic. But we could put the F somewhere else. We could play anything. We could play... There's an F there, right? We could go... There's an F there, right? Maybe I have A minor pentatonic up here. F. So if we are listening to the song underneath as we're soloing, we're not just kind of soloing blind and just playing all over the place. We know exactly when each chord happens in the song underneath. Then we can aim certain notes for those moments, right? And of course, well, you see how valuable it is to know exactly where an F note is when we need it, right? Or whatever we need. So here's what I would suggest would be great homework is to put on a jam track or create a jam track. You could just use this sequence, right? And whenever you get to the F chord, just try to land an F. The idea is just to play something, blah, 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 and then land on the F. And all you really have to do is just let that magic note ring. You don't have to do anything that crazy, because Why? Because the note is so cool already, it just sings, right? You just hit it, and that's what he does on the first lick, right? It highlights the chord underneath. It helps the chords, it helps the solo sound very connected to the song and the chords. And I mean, what a great opportunity to play a note that's not in the pentatonic. So if you're one of the people out there who's starting to feel kind of stuck, like you're always playing the same things, well, here's your chance, right? Here's your chance. So if you want to know more about how to use these kinds of notes that are outside the pentatonic, using this particular method of analyzing chords underneath and playing them, I have lots of that kind of stuff in my book. I'll just plug this one more time. It's Guitar Soloing Like a Pro, and it's available on Amazon. You can check out you can find out more about it on my website, which is www.bluemorris.com. Thanks a lot.